Many people in capitalist countries, especially the US, believe that communism is a dictatorship that leads to nothing but death and suffering, or that is against something vague, like freedom and democracy. I can sit here and debunk a lot of capitalist propaganda surrounding communism, but I'll leave links in the description below to people who have already performed the research on this long topic. Let us first define communism, then return to the question of what is communism? Classically, communism is defined as a moneyless, classless, stateless society. This only occurs after what is known as the Proletarian Revolution is completed. The Proletarian Revolution is when the proletariat overthrows the bourgeoisie and takes their place as the ruling class. Who are the proletariat? Why, it's all of us, the working class, the people who do all the work and create all the products that make society operate. Who are the bourgeoisie? The bourgeoisie are the wealthy, parasitic ruling class, meaning they are the few individuals who have so much money that they can manipulate their government and have laws passed to protect them and screw us over. Now that we know what communism is and what is necessary to achieve it, let's go back to American beliefs of what communism is. Communism is a moneyless, classless, stateless society that has achieved the proletarian revolution. If there is a dictatorship of an individual, is that country communist? It is not. If the country is riddled with death and suffering, does that sound like something the working class would want for themselves? Does that sound like something they'd allow if they were in power? No. Countries that have allowed a dictator to cause death and suffering of the masses are not communist countries. Granted, some of these countries did implement socialist policies that worked to tremendous effect. The more successful countries had zero unemployment, free healthcare, free education, free housing, and free food. The reason they fell was because capitalist countries, like ours, infiltrated them with their propaganda and tricked the working class into believing that being able to choose blue jeans was more important than free healthcare and free housing. Even though the reason why these countries didn't have much choice in commodities was because of capitalist embargoes on them. Is communism against freedom and democracy? Let us see what our so-called freedom gets us here in America. Our paychecks dictate what we can and cannot do based on any excess income we've saved in order to actually have leisure time. It sounds to me like the only freedom we have is our wages. When we do get increases in our paychecks, what happens? Inflation conveniently occurs and our rent and utilities goes up. Doesn't sound like freedom to me. How about democracy? We vote every 4 years for one of two parties that are determined by the bourgeoisie, our wealthy ruling class. Don't believe me? Why do we have multi-billion-dollar associations running our government? They are called the RNC, or Republican National Convention, and the DNC, or Democratic National Convention. When there is a candidate running whom these billionaire losers really don't like, they pool their money together, run a smear campaign on that candidate, and we believe it. That sounds like manipulation to me, and there's nothing democratic about manipulation. What does freedom look like under a truly communist country? It's the use of machinery to replace monotonous jobs so we have more time to ourselves. Product produced by machinery has a massively reduced cost because there are no human hours put into that product. Under Marxism, only human hours put into a product dictate a price because only our labor is important. By doing this, we free up more of our time, and freeing up of our time does not equate to loss in pay because a truly communist society prioritizes people over profit. We would have zero unemployment because we wouldn't have a parasitic entity manufacturing unemployment. There would be no wars because we would unite the international working class, eliminating all class antagonisms. Free healthcare would be provided because we no longer have a middleman insurance company extracting a profit off our pain and suffering. We would have free housing because homes would be viewed as a human necessity rather than a commodity that is a good investment. Food would be free because agricultural monopolies would be abolished, and food is a necessity of life. We would have free utilities because having heating during the winter and air conditioning during the summers are requirements for survival from the elements. The necessities for life are provided. Why should the necessities be provided, you may ask? Did you decide to be born? I'm assuming that you didn't. Neither did I, nor anyone else for that matter. So if none of us decided to be born, then that means that each and every one of us has the right to be on this earth. If this is the case, then why should the bare necessities for the maintenance of life not be provided? What about democracy under a truly communist country? Instead of the vertical power structure we're used to with the president or prime minister at the top, we'd have a horizontal power structure in which everyone has equal say in what happens in society. Decisions will be made based on the certain needs of regions that face different environmental issues. If one area is facing drought and water scarcity, then that area will have their say in how they want to address it. Whether that's a combination of restoring the water table, reforestation in the area, harvesting and storage of rainwater, and implementing water usage for residents until the water table is restored, or other methods. Different areas face different problems, therefore there would need to be different rules and solutions implemented until the problems are solved. This is how a true democracy works. This is how democracy works under true communism. We would have the ability to immediately recall any official if we felt that they were not properly serving the community. No more term limits. If someone is trying to take advantage of their position, then they are permanently removed. Money and people with a lot of it would not be allowed into politics anymore. However, those with massive fortunes would be taxed out of it until they are within the realm of the working class, leading to the elimination of class antagonisms, which is one of the many goals of communism. Only the corporations have the ability to end unemployment in this country, but the billionaires want to remain billionaires, so they cut costs wherever they can. These cut costs negatively affect our lives to great extent, because under a capitalist society, our lives rely on money to survive. Us losing our jobs is a matter of life and death. Unemployment also serves them by keeping our paychecks as low as possible while raising the costs of everything we have to spend those paychecks on. Have you ever heard your boss tell you, "If you don't like it, go work somewhere else"? They can tell us this because they know there are plenty of unemployed they can replace you with. Welcome to capitalism. Wars would be abolished if all countries are communist because you no longer have imperialist countries like ours going into other countries to steal their resources. That's right, our wealthy ruling class tells the government which countries to invade so we, the working class, can kill that country's working class. The civilians who are just trying to protect their country from us. Also, our bourgeoisie can steal their resources and cheap labor. Resources and labor that the conquered country could have used to enrich their lives, but are now being used to enrich the lives of our rich. Capitalism. Currently, we produce enough food to end world hunger 2 times over, but we don't because it's not profitable. As the system is, all the food that wasn't purchased that could have been given to the hungry go into the garbage. Capitalism. We could build enough homes for everyone, but we don't because the landlords and petty bourgeois homes would lose their value. We also currently have homes for families to occupy, but those families have to rent because they are owned and rented out by landlords and hedge funds. Capitalism. We don't have free health care because if so, then the middleman insurance companies wouldn't be able to make money off us, and the corporatized hospitals couldn't overcharge us for services and medications. Capitalism. Free education won't happen because there are corporations that pay big money for universities to seed specific jobs back into them. If education were free, then we could teach those career paths more variety and diversity within their fields of practice and not just what the corporations dictate the schools to teach them. Capitalism. Utilities aren't nationalized because if we did, then the CEOs and presidents of those companies wouldn't make multi-millions while burning our fucking homes to the ground, nor would our politicians be paid by these entities to deregulate them. Capitalism. We don't build machines to fully replace humans in redundant, monotonous work because it would displace too many jobs and then all the unemployed would not have money to spend on the products produced, and the people who are employed wouldn't be able to afford those same products because it would be overpriced due to supply and demand. Capitalism. There are communists all across the globe. We are moderate in numbers, but as capitalism continues to further intensify its oppression, we will only see our numbers grow, despite all the capitalist Red Scare propaganda from the Cold War. As Marx said, capitalism is its own undoing. We believe in the international cause, the dissolution of borders and the uniting of the worldwide working class, the worldwide proletariat. Our goal is the proletarian revolution, replacing the bourgeoisie as the ruling class, in creating a horizontal power structure in which all of our voices are equally heard. In order to achieve this goal, we must create class consciousness. Class consciousness is when the entire working class understands that there are only two classes. The middle class is a fabrication of the bourgeois to divide the working class because they know that if they divide us, they weaken us. This is because all of our power lies in our numbers. We are the masses. The bourgeoisie only have power and money. But if we were all to unite and shut down all of the bourgeois factories and facilities, they would lose all their money and therefore all of their so-called power. This is the first step in achieving the proletarian revolution. We want class consciousness to be such that every individual would be able to spot corruption or someone who wants to exploit others and shut them down immediately. Educated to the point where if someone were to try and lead a group of people by exploiting them, the group would notice and shun that individual from society. A working class so united and so educated that they become unexploitable. In conclusion, Americans believe a lot of Red Scare propaganda about communism that developed from the Cold War era. What communism is a creation of a moneyless classless society through the proletarian revolution and temporarily utilizing the state by the proletariat to suppress the bourgeoisie, not the other way around like we see in capitalism. Communism would be used to make life more equitable and fair for all human beings. Under capitalism, profit is prioritized over people, leading to the death and suffering of many, while giving the illusion of freedom when all our freedom amounts to is our paychecks. Communists today have a lot of myths to bust surrounding communism, including the breaking down of the reality of class. Therefore, the first goal of communists is to build a strong base of class consciousness among the proletariat. We want to educate the proletariat to the point where they become immune to capitalist propaganda and are unexploitable. Everyone has a capacity to learn, no matter how dumb they say they are. I hope you found this video informative, and thank you for listening.